Imagine a scientific detective story where the suspects are atoms, the crime scene spans millennia, and the evidence is written in the very fabric of ancient manuscripts. What if the tiniest particles could unravel centuries of historical mystery? This isn't science fiction, it's carbon dating, a remarkable tool that's like a time machine powered by atomic clocks. A scientific method so precise it can whisper secrets from civilizations long past, challenging our understanding of history with nothing more than the silent testimony of carbon atoms. Picture this: every living thing absorbs carbon-14 from the air. When something dies, it stops absorbing, and this special carbon begins a predictable countdown. Scientists can now measure how much of this carbon remains to pinpoint exactly when an object was created, often within just a few decades. It's like forensic archaeology, but with atoms and radiometric chemists as the detectives. We're about to take an incredible journey through three of the world's most important religious texts, examining them not through the lens of faith, but through the unbiased eye of science. The Torah, whispers from the past. The Dead Sea Scrolls are like a time capsule of Jewish history. Discovered in the 1940s, these 900-plus manuscripts are the oldest physical evidence of the Hebrew Bible. The Genesis scroll, dated to around 200 BCE, is fascinating, but here's the twist. It appears over 1,000 years after the Torah's traditional origin. Intriguingly, archaeological evidence reveals complex layers of textual transmission. The Masoretic text, the standardized Hebrew Bible, emerged around 100 CE, but earlier versions show fascinating variations. Scholars have identified at least three distinct textual families among the Dead Sea Scrolls: the Masoretic, Septuagint, and Samaritan traditions. Each represents a slightly different narrative thread, reflecting the dynamic nature of oral and written traditions. Think of these ancient texts like a game of historical telephone. Passed down orally for centuries before being written, each scribe might have added slight variations. It's a bit like how family stories change slightly with each retelling. The New Testament, a manuscript mystery. The oldest complete New Testament manuscript, the Codex Sinaiticus, comes with a surprising detail. It contains 23,000 corrections. The oldest fragment, the John Rylands Papyrus, dates to around 125 CE, just 50 to 100 years after Jesus' lifetime. Textual criticism reveals an even more complex picture. Over 5,800 Greek manuscripts exist, ranging from tiny fragments to complete codices. The variations aren't just spelling errors, they include theological interpretations, contextual additions, and deliberate modifications. Some early Christian communities adapted text to align with their understanding of Jesus' teachings. Imagine trying to preserve a story by hand-copying it multiple times. Small changes creep in, and scholars estimate that about 15 to 20% of the text varies across different manuscripts. The Quran. Here's what makes the Quran remarkable. Variations across manuscripts are less than 1%. Compare that to the Torah's 5 to 10% and the New Testament's 15 to 20%, and the difference is striking. Early Islamic scholars developed meticulous methods of preservation, relying not only on written copies, but also on oral transmission, where entire communities memorized the text. The Birmingham manuscript, dated between 568 to 645 CE, aligns perfectly with the Prophet Muhammad's lifetime. Other manuscripts, like the Sana'a Palimpsest and Topkapi Codex, further confirm the Quran's consistency. Even fragments that predate the Birmingham manuscript show the same text, word for word. This preservation is attributed to the Quran's theological promise of divine protection. Indeed, it is we who sent down the Quran, and indeed we will be its guardian. Quran 15:9. Whether one views this as divine intervention or human diligence, the result is unprecedented continuity. Carbon dating doesn't take sides. It simply reveals the truth. In the grand detective story of history, the Quran stands out like an impeccably preserved artifact, whispering its tale with remarkable consistency. While other texts reveal layers of edits, adaptations, and human fingerprints, the Quran's textual uniformity, less than 1% variation, feels almost like a literary time capsule. Whether due to divine guardianship or meticulous human effort, its survival strategy is undeniably impressive. After all, it's not every day that a 1,400-year-old text can proudly say, "I haven't changed a word, check my receipts." Ultimately, the Quran's uniqueness is a testament to its guardians, be they heavenly or human. While other scriptures weave fascinating tales of evolution, the Quran seems to have locked its story in a vault. It's as if history leaned back and said, "Don't worry about this one, it's got itself covered." In the race against time, the Quran proves that sometimes staying the same is the most extraordinary story of all.